Caught my husband living a double life on Twitter, begging me for a second chance while I fell for a caring groomsman. He said, "If you have his baby, I can never accept it." Deciding between affection and familiarity, I faced an agonizing choice. Can I truly move on? Almost a year ago, at 26 years old, I had a gut feeling and decided to go through my husband's phone. I seldom do that, but each time I had looked in the past, I discovered something that hurt me, and this time was no exception. On Twitter, I found that he had a private second account I had never known about. The handle was Born to Bottom, and it was filled with reposts of transgender pornography. He had made explicit comments under many of the videos, addressing these women in ways he had never addressed me. We had been together for 8 years, and I was aware of his preferences regarding gender and sex. He had asked me to peg him a few times, and I attempted to comply, but honestly, I did not enjoy it. I felt awkward and did not like being in a dominant role. He respected my feelings and pursued his own interests privately. Therefore, his kinks were not the problem. The real issue was the secrecy, the double life he led. The comments and persona he created online were in stark contrast to how he interacted with me. At that moment, our sex life was nearly non-existent, perhaps once every 6 weeks, and it felt more like a chore than a source of passion. He claimed he was not attracted to men or transgender women outside of pornography. He insisted that it was purely fantasy. He maintained that he was neither gay nor bisexual. Nonetheless, the disconnection between his online expressions and how he treated me in real life was painful. It left me feeling unwanted, unattractive, and completely out of sync. Additionally, he was not a supportive partner emotionally. He rarely complimented me, maybe 6 times in an entire year. He did not plan simple dates, he did not offer affection, and he never performed small, loving gestures. Everything I received from him emotionally felt like something I had to beg for. My love language is affection, words, and attention. His was not. Eventually, I felt as if we were simply roommates. When I uncovered the secret Twitter account, something within me shifted. I was already feeling angry, anxious, and unloved, but that revelation solidified my decision. I decided to move out. I found my own apartment, covered all the expenses myself, and left. My departure was not sudden. I communicated clearly to him that I wanted to come back, but we needed therapy, more affection, and peace in our home. I needed him to make an effort. I gave him 3 months and reminded him, even offering to arrange everything and pay for it, but he consistently fell short. I do not believe it was due to a lack of care. I think he was simply terrible at prioritizing emotional needs. In the meantime, I had a wedding I needed to photograph. One of the groomsmen at 29 years old was someone I had a brief fling with in high school. We scarcely spoke that day, but I sent him a couple of pictures of himself afterward and made a joke, leading us to begin reconnecting. It felt so effortless. He inquired whether I was still married, and I replied that it was complicated because it truly was. From that point on, we communicated daily, and I began to realize just how emotionally deprived I had been. This man listened to me, made me laugh, and provided genuine attention. I officially ended things with my husband and started seeing this new man more seriously. My husband was heartbroken. He spiraled into emotional instability for months, experiencing several panic attacks, desperate cries for help, and significant depression. Despite all of this, he still supported me. He assisted me with bills when I needed help, and he was always there for me. He wanted to work things out and begged me to return. In contrast, my new relationship was beautiful in many aspects. He embodied everything I had sought in a man over 8 years and more. He was thoughtful, affectionate, emotionally available, patient, and kind. He lived 3.5 hours away, so I did most of the traveling, but I did not mind. I chose him repeatedly, even though I recognized how much my husband was suffering. Then I became pregnant. Initially, I attempted to feel happy, but deep down, I felt devastated. I did not want to have a baby. I felt torn between the life I had now and the life I might still have with my husband. Therefore, I confided in my husband rather than my boyfriend about the pregnancy. He stated that if I had the baby, he could never accept it and that it would ruin any prospects for our reconciliation. He expressed that it would be incredibly challenging to raise another man's child and treat them fairly, considering the emotional pain he had endured. I ultimately chose to have an abortion. I initially concealed it from my boyfriend, but eventually I confessed. I also admitted that I had slept with my husband once during this entire ordeal. It was a mistake, and I accepted responsibility for it, aware that it could jeopardize my new relationship. Nevertheless, he forgave me. He told me he loved me and would stay despite all the pain and betrayal, but cautioned me that he could not endure this situation again. Currently, I am still with my boyfriend. He continues to shower me with love and care. He pays attention to every detail about me, surprises me, and makes me feel safe and adored. He provides the type of love I longed for during my marriage. However, I still miss my husband every single day. I miss the comfort, the family dynamic, and the shared humor. I miss the simplicity of co-parenting without the complications of 2 households. I miss the man I hoped he would become. It is difficult to determine whether he has genuinely changed or if I am merely romanticizing what we once had. I have observed some growth in him. He is now on antidepressants, more socially engaged and more involved in our lives, but he still struggles with stress, remains impatient with our children, and lacks the emotional awareness I require. I should also note that my husband's way of relieving stress is through playing games on his computer. There were times when he would become so engrossed in gaming that he would not even hear our son crying or me speaking to him. He would play for 6 to 12 hours at a stretch, which became increasingly irritating for me. Eventually, I would likely snap at him in frustration, yet he did start to slow down and play less over time. He also lost many of his friends, likely because he stopped gaming and distanced himself from a couple we used to socialize with. I confronted them, however, because they were being disrespectful toward me. He claims he does not have many friends now because he dislikes their behavior, asserting they can be passive-aggressive, which is why he does not make an effort to connect with them. This became an issue for me, as I noticed he was spending virtually all his time at home, unwilling to engage in activities outside. I offered to take him on numerous vacations, but he always preferred to stay home. He struggled with severe social anxiety, so even a simple trip to the store would overwhelm him. He would express his frustration about it. He used to say that his mood was always affected because of being overwhelmed by everything: work, parenting, cooking, cleaning, and constantly doing favors for me. However, his social anxiety has improved with medication. He now goes to stores, interacts with coworkers, and even visits bars a couple of times a week. He states he is pushing himself to step out of his comfort zone, doing small things like using public restrooms or interacting more with people. He is not a terrible person. He is the best person I have ever met. He is funny, caring, an empath, and truly supportive. However, the reality is that he can be lazy when it comes to prioritizing things, especially emotionally. I know he would never cheat on me and would always provide for me. He supports our family, yet there are moments when he is harsh, dismissive, and lacks patience with our children. Sometimes he is too stressed to play with them, creating a disconnect between us. I have reached a point where I am uncertain about what to do. He would be amazing, but what if he has not changed? What if he still does not know how to show affection in the way I need? It feels selfish, but I find it incredibly difficult to be with someone when I do not feel wanted. Living with my boyfriend now presents a stark contrast, and the idea of leaving this situation seems almost seamless. It would not cause any considerable disruption for anyone involved. My husband has been clear about his desires, expressing that he wants all of me, my quirks, attitude, and behavior. He recognizes who I am and still wishes to be with me, even suggesting therapy to navigate our feelings and responses. Despite everything that has transpired, he still wants to make it work. I do love my boyfriend, but the absence of my husband creates a constant ache. I doubt this feeling will simply dissipate with time, and the thought of watching him move on while I continue to miss him fills me with dread. Meanwhile, a significant concern remains. What if a reconciliation does not lead to the kind of loving and affectionate home I want my children to witness? I am consciously trying to break the cycle of my mother's mistakes. Her departure from my father when I was 14 and her subsequent affairs with married men deeply affected me. I do not want my children to view a fractured relationship as normal. I yearn for them to witness the kind of marriage I desired growing up, a mother and father who adore each other, a partnership filled with love and simple joys like dancing in the kitchen. That was not the reality I experienced with my husband before. Complicating matters further, my husband's friends and family have made their disapproval of my leaving him abundantly clear. His family, with whom I have never been close and who struggle with alcoholism, resent me for taking their child away. One even became physically aggressive with me during my pregnancy. Sadly, even my own family has sided with my husband, echoing the sentiment that one must work on a marriage and not simply give up. It is important to note that my parents do not have the kind of relationship I wish for my children to view as normal either. Furthermore, none of these individuals are aware of one of the underlying reasons for my departure, a reason I have deliberately kept private to shield my husband from their judgment. I have spent this entire time protecting him. It feels as if everyone wants me to feel guilty for desiring to be loved and cherished, portraying my wish as a sudden and irrational impulse, despite my years of pleading before I finally left. Even then, I granted him an additional 3 months to genuinely try. I have put significant effort into making the best decisions I can, creating pros and cons lists, praying, discussing matters, and writing. I have made mistakes in the past, and I am desperately trying to avoid jeopardizing my future happiness. Story 2. Stuck in a confusing dance with a woman who says, "I'm trying, but it's not easy." I find myself questioning if my clinginess is pushing her away. After a shaky start and an awkward apology, will this relationship blossom, or am I just clinging to hope? Hello, everyone's. I do not have anyone to discuss my situation with in real life, and I feel that my case is complicated due to my past experiences. I would appreciate your input. You may skip this part if you wish to go directly to my current situation or read about the problem at hand first. I am a 32-year-old male, living a quite regular life with its ups and downs, but I have experienced some traumatic events. For instance, my grandparents, who meant a great deal to me, moved back to their original country when I was a child. Additionally, I do not feel that I received much love from my parents, although our relationship is better now and I am able to talk to them. In high school, my best friend passed away unexpectedly. I was comforted by a female friend who had a boyfriend, and I fell in love with her. This complicated her relationship, and we engaged in an undercover relationship in which she was emotionally abusive in hindsight. To this day, I feel that this relationship was the biggest mistake of my life. During that time, my new best friend moved away. To cut a long story short, I believe I have developed an anxiety about abandonment due to my past experiences, an anxious attachment style. This anxiety leads me to seek a lot of attention from potential partners, and I become quite frustrated when they do not show the interest I expect from someone considering a relationship with me. I am fully aware of this issue and strive to manage it as well as I can, but it can be overwhelming. Current situation. At this moment, I am meeting a 32-year-old female, and we were introduced by a mutual friend. Our initial meeting was a fiasco, and I had zero interest afterward, mainly because she did not adhere to our original plan of dining together on a Sunday night, and I found myself unattracted to her not only due to her appearance but also because of her behavior. A few months later, I needed a plus one for an event, and she was the only person who came to mind since I moved relatively recently and do not know many people yet. We also follow each other on social media, and I like some of her posts and stories, which made me want to give it another chance. She agreed, and we planned to meet near the event to attend together. She was very late, and we barely made it on time. At the event, I appreciated her behavior as she encouraged me to introduce myself to an important person in a positive way. Afterward, we went to dinner and had a good time. She invited me for coffee near her place. The next day, she started messaging me, and I made a significant mistake by unintentionally insulting her. I have a bad habit of mocking people and made fun of her English, which was very inappropriate. Although I generally make those kinds of jokes, only with people I like, she could not have known that, and even if she had, it is still a poor habit of mine that I want to change. I apologized and tried to make amends by inviting her to dinner, but she declined, and we went out of contact for a while again. A few weeks later, I had an accident and called her to ask about something. She helped me but declined several requests when I asked her out for dinner. At that point, I accepted the situation and moved on. However, she liked some of my social media posts afterward, and a few weeks later she called me asking for help with her pet. I agreed and we began talking again as my taking care of her pet rekindled her interest. We met for walks and I started to become increasingly interested in her, feeling as though she might be interested too. To summarize the rest, we made some plans, but she did not stick to them or postpone them. At the same time, she messaged me daily and sent me selfies. I grew irritated because she seemed to show interest, laughing, etc. When we met and messaged me frequently, yet I perceived her responses and efforts to meet as inconsistent. Her time management, she has consistently been late to our designated dates, has always troubled me and was one of the reasons I lost interest after our first date. She is quite busy with work, ambitious, and has many hobbies and family commitments. Nonetheless, I do not believe this can excuse her behavior. As someone who tends to be clingy, her communication style and apparent lack of time for me, my perception of course, without knowing if she is genuinely that busy and trying her best, unsettle me. We finally met again the other day and I had a serious conversation with her. I expressed that I am looking for a serious relationship, as I aspire to marry and build a family, and if I were not interested in her, we would not be having this conversation. I conveyed that I do not understand her behavior, as she seems both interested and uninterested simultaneously. I explained that her responsiveness and time management disturb me, and even with regular friends, this would be unacceptable to me. Her response was that she feels I am very demanding and interrogative, which she does not appreciate understandably, and that she is trying, but it is not easy for her due to time constraints. She appeared to be understanding and we spoke for a while. She then mentioned her issues with me thus far. She felt I was a negative person on our first date because I was only complaining about the location. I had recently moved there, and did not show much interest in her, which was true as I was genuinely not too interested. A significant issue was the incident I previously described, where my mocking of her language skills made her feel insulted. She still seems interested, outlining her expectations and what she does not appreciate. For example, she dislikes negative people or complainers, which I can be at times, even though I strive to adopt a more positive outlook. It is a process. She suggested that we should simply see how things go and not force anything. Perhaps it might work out, or perhaps we could become great friends, etc. My current dilemma is whether this situation can potentially work, due to the following reasons. I do not know if she can improve her time management, or if it would change as she becomes more fond of me, or if we enter into a relationship. I assume yes. I am sure I cannot be with a workaholic or someone who is rarely around. I can be a nagger and negative at times, and I am unsure if I would be the right person for her, but I suppose that is for her to decide. My main concern is this. Do we stand a chance of becoming a happy couple and eventually marrying? Our relationship did not begin well, and there are still many uncertainties. I feel unsure if I am clinging to something because I want to start a family and feel like I am running out of time. Or can this actually work out despite the obstacles? Summary. I am a 32-year-old male with an anxious attachment style, clingy, needing attention, fearing abandonment, and I want to marry and start a family. The 32-year-old female is attractive to me, very successful, ambitious, seemingly comes from a good family, and appears to have a good character. We were introduced by a friend. Our first date was disastrous, and we did not communicate for a long time. We occasionally liked each other's social media posts. Months later, I needed a +1 for an event and invited her. She accepted. We had a good time, and she began chatting with me the next day, demonstrating significant interest. I messed up and apologized, but the damage was done. Following an accident, I asked for her help, which she gave, and weeks later, she asked for my assistance with her pet. We reconnected and started meeting again. I began to feel interested and believed there was potential for us. She sent me messages and selfies almost daily, but her responses about further dates were inconsistent. Most troubling for me is that she does not respond or leaves my messages unread but still watches my social media stories. We had a conversation where I expressed my intentions and concerns. She listened and shared her issues with me, some of which I understood and acknowledged. We discussed our feelings, and she stated that we should see where things lead without forcing anything. Her body language felt positive, and she messaged me when she got home and the following day. However, as always, her responses were very delayed, despite her being on her phone constantly from what I perceive. Question. Does this have a chance to develop into a serious relationship, or am I clinging to something that is hopeless because she does not seem to invest as much effort as I do? Wouldn't someone who is genuinely interested always find time to chat, call, or meet? It is so confusing. I feel uncertain about her because I like her, yet her communication and time availability are poor. I believe she could make me a better person and add value to my life, but I am unsure if I can say the same about myself, adding value to hers. Thoughts about this situation occupy my thoughts daily, and I have felt stressed about it for several days. Story 3. He violated my trust and my privacy, telling me, "You realize something isn't right, didn't you?" When I confronted him, he cruelly said, "Thank you for giving me the best birthday." I thought I knew him, but he turned out to be a monster in disguise. What else did he hide? I was so astonished when he confessed to searching through my laptop. I had trusted him to use it for a work-related purpose. Never in my life did I think he would violate my trust in such a manner. I would never betray someone's trust the way he did mine. One evening, he came over to my apartment and requested to use my laptop for work. I do not even recall what excuse he provided regarding his own laptop, but now, I genuinely believe it was his intention all along to invade my private life. I handed it over to him, trusting him completely, and he acted as if he were teaching a class. Meanwhile, I was in the kitchen preparing food for both of us. He did not even offer to assist. As I cooked, a memory from another visit flooded back to me. He had made me cook and then ate all the food without asking if I was hungry. I was hungry, but I remained silent, allowing him to consume it all. That moment stung, so I wrote "inconsiderate" in my phone's notes application. I did not realize the app was synchronized with my laptop and had opened there as well. That was when it all began. It was well past midnight and I had work the following morning. I could not sleep. I kept tossing and turning, feeling ill. That gut feeling, women's intuition, whatever you want to call it, I sensed that something was terribly wrong. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. And then I discovered why. He spent hours going through my notes, my emails, my messages, my entire digital life. Around 4 a.m., he finally said, "You realize something is not right, didn't you?" And then with a coldness that chilled me, he added, "You're right, I went through your laptops." I was paralyzed. He did not even attempt to conceal it. Then he began to shame me. He called me names. He judged me for notes I had written over the past 7 years, long before he entered my life. He degraded me for expressing interest in other men, mocked me for finding other men attractive, and even ridiculed someone I had liked in the past, whose picture I had forgotten I had saved in my notes. "He's short," he said, laughing. "My arm is longer than he is." He became enraged over a harmless message from a male friend who had sent me outfit photos asking for assistance, solely because we used emojis during our chats. I could not even respond. I was frozen in place in complete shock. He humiliated me for things I had only ever written for myself, notes where I poured out my regrets, where I begged God to forgive me for past mistakes. The most intimate parts of my heart. He read everything and weaponized it against me. He even read all my documents, including my job offer letter. He read that as well. When he saw how much I was earning, he became bitter, spiteful. He remarked that it was unfair that I easily earned more than him, that he worked so hard while I was just coasting, as if my success was something to resent, not celebrate, as if I did not deserve it. He would not even let me see his own phone, yet he explored every corner of mine. Then he said, "Let me help you delete these," and started removing notes he disapproved of. He went through my contacts and deleted anyone he did not favor, asserting that when I am trying to get to know someone for marriage, I should not keep things like this from my past. I should erase them. I just sat there in complete silence, feeling utterly powerless, as though I no longer had a say in what was mine. Then the most shocking thing transpired. He said, "My uncle was right about you," merely because I had visited a country his family despised, and that he would ask him to arrange the marriage with the girl he had originally suggested. He took the groceries he had brought and even reclaimed the only gift he ever gave me. That was the first time he had actually brought groceries. Whenever he came over, most times uninvited, he always expected me to cook and clean up after him, asserting that it was a woman's responsibility to take care of such matters. All of that was at my expense, every single time. Even when I did not want him to enter or stay over, he would force his way in. I had never experienced anyone violate my personal space in such a manner. He would make himself at home, sleep on my bed, and refuse to leave, even when I told him I was uncomfortable with him being there. I repeatedly told him I did not want a man living in my home outside of marriage, yet he would not listen. And that was not the end. I could not sleep after he left. I opened my laptop again, still trembling, and that was when I realized he had forgotten to log out of his email. And that was when I discovered it. He had emailed himself my personal notes, the ones where I stored my passwords. I felt nauseous. He had violated me in every conceivable way, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and now digitally. My body felt heavy. I did not even think to check what else he had done. The only thing I could concentrate on was deleting those emails. I wish I had looked through his emails. I wish I had fought back harder. But in that moment, I felt completely hollowed out. He had twisted everything, making me feel ashamed, disgusting, and worthless. The only action I took while he was still present was to throw his phone against the wall when he refused to let me see it. When I attempted to slap him, I accidentally cut my finger instead. And do you know what he did? He applied a bandage to it, as if he had not just psychologically destroyed me. A part of me still cannot believe it truly happened. The other part cannot stop reliving it. He told me it was his birthday. And after everything he did to me that night, violating my privacy, humiliating me, making me feel that I was disgusting and unworthy, he had the audacity to look at me and say, "Thank you for giving me the best birthday." As if I was the one who had done something for him, as if I was the one who had violated him. He said it sarcastically, as if I had ruined his life, when in truth he was the one who had destroyed mine. It was so manipulative and surreal, as if he wanted me to feel grateful for being abused. That moment haunts me. It solidified just how sick and twisted the entire situation was. And the worst part, that night, he went through notes I had written from 2011 to 2018, 7 years of my private thoughts. Yet I had only known him personally for about 2 months. He acted as if he had the right to judge me, shame me, and belittle me for things I wrote long before he ever existed in my life. Notes where I had poured out my heart, repented, reflected, and tried to grow. Things I never vocalized to anyone. Thoughts I kept solely for myself. What gave him the rights? He shamed me, belittled me, demeaned me, and judged me merely for recording my honest thoughts. Those notes were not meant for him. They were not for anyone's. They were intended only for my eyes. He had no right to read them. No right to weaponize them. No right to make me feel as though I was the worst human being for expressing what was already buried in the past. He mocked my sincerity. He violated something sacred, not just my privacy but my personal growth. Even after everything that happened that night, I still did not grasp the full picture of who he truly was. I did not recognize the lying, cheating, deceiving, disgusting, hypocritical, and despicable monster he really was. It was not until everything had ended completely and I had time to process the events that I began piecing the puzzle together. Only then did I realize how profound the manipulation and deceit ran, how everything was merely a facade. He had been concealing his true self all along, playing a game, lying to my face, pretending to be someone he was not. It was as if the real him gradually revealed itself over time, and I could not believe how blind I had been. I was too consumed by his love bombing, in the hope of something genuine, that I failed to notice all the signs. But once it was over, the truth became undeniable. In the end, I could not have been more relieved to walk away from someone who turned out to be nothing more than a monster disguised as a human. I have never shared something like this before, but I believe it is time. I still carry a lot of pain from this experience, and I wanted to write it out not only to process my feelings, but also in case it resonates with someone else out there. If you have ever experienced something similar, please feel free to share. Thank you to anyone reading this. I did not expect to disclose so much, but it has been weighing heavily on my heart for a considerable time. Story 4. At 32, I'm realizing my friends' values are no longer mine. Why does a 13-year-old need to wear skincare masks? I wonder as they preach beauty norms. Now they're planning wasteful weddings while I'm grappling with the hypocrisy. How do I fit into this? Throwaway account, we are all in our 30s. We have been friends for anywhere between 1 and 20 years. One of them jokes about how her child, who is in her early teens, did not experience an awkward phase and she takes pride in her role as a mother for that. I find it unfortunate. Why should a 13-year-old be concerned about the latest skincare products and wearing LED skincare masks? This feels reminiscent of some dystopian scenario, and I am not supportive of it. Children are being bombarded with these unrealistic beauty standards at younger and younger ages, and I find it troubling. It is disheartening that their entire existence seems to revolve around appearing attractive in public and on social media. I believe this is harmful. They wish to obtain Botox and fillers to slow down the aging process. I think undergoing such procedures normalizes extreme beauty standards for women. The more people engage in these practices, the more they become the standard for everyone, and subsequently women face increasing pressure to conform. Women already bear a significant burden regarding beauty, and these cosmetic procedures represent the last straw for me. So yes, individuals can make their own choices, but it is essential to realize that you are contributing to the broader issue. The problem arises when we discuss it as a group. I am perceived as the jerk if I express my disapproval. It seems that I am judging them, which in a sense I am. I do not believe they are foolish for making these choices, but it saddens me that they have yielded to societal expectations and continue to contribute to them. While I recognize that we all do this to some degree, I am actively attempting to see such behaviors, while they do not appear to be doing the same. Several of my friends are getting married, and I find the entire wedding culture to be extravagant and misogynistic. Why is the most significant moment in a woman's life considered to be when she marries a man? The entire notion is cringeworthy. The tradition of having your father give you away, changing your last name, and the entitlement surrounding weddings, such as expecting gifts at bridal showers and money at weddings, in addition to multiple related events, feels excessive. Engagement party, bridal shower, bachelor party, rehearsal dinner, wedding, reception, or mehndi, or whatever else for weddings in other cultures. There is no other event where individuals can request so much time and money from others without them perceiving you as inconsiderate. You could discover a cure for cancer, but people would still regard you as inconsiderate if you held them hostage for a year of events, demanding their time and money to celebrate the occasion. Again, if my friends wish to partake in these activities, that is acceptable and I will humor them. However, I am unsure how to engage in these conversations without sounding inconsiderate. A friend of mine wants to have shoes embroidered with Mrs. for her wedding day. How am I expected to respond to that? I find it overly sentimental and a wasteful investment, as I cannot imagine her wearing shoes that say Mrs. on a regular day. So you want to wear something that advertises your connection to a man, only to wear it once and have it occupy space in your home afterward. The bridesmaids' proposal boxes, filled with trivial items and featuring my name in vinyl on the box, are wasteful to me. I do not need items with my name on them, and I have little interest in the majority of the contents. Samples of perfume and single-use face masks alongside some raffia as filler do not appeal to me. I do not believe there should even be bridesmaids' proposal events in boxes. Simply ask people to be your bridesmaids and move on. I do not wish to receive gifts that are inscribed with words that I cannot wear outside the context of this event. I also think that bachelorette parties should simply be what they are, parties. I do not understand why everyone feels the need to plan trips for these occasions now. It is wasteful, and I believe it is self-serving to ask friends to expend their money and vacation time on such matters. All the excessive save-the-dates and invitations that people will eventually discard contribute to this wastefulness. Once again, I participate, but I do not know how to respond when these ideas arise in conversation. I must either ignore them or lie and say that these are wonderful ideas. Whenever an event or vacation is discussed, they are shopping on Shein for entirely new wardrobes. A friend wants to go on a trip for a specific event and plans to buy items for this trip from Shein which she will never wear again. I struggle to express enthusiasm in the group chat when I find it incredibly wasteful, and once again I am not exempt from this behavior. I am sure I engage in actions that others might consider wasteful. However, I am making a conscious effort to change. I aim to reduce my possessions while they seem to desire more. They recognize that the tradition of diamond engagement rings was a marketing strategy devised by the De Beers Corporation to sell more diamonds, yet they insist that they must possess such a ring to be considered engaged. Whenever someone becomes engaged, they say, "Ooh, let us see the ring." I have no interest in viewing the ring. Almost all of them appear the same. I am not against jewelry. I appreciate unique or interesting pieces. However, their fascination comes solely from the fact that the ring contains a diamond and signifies engagement, yet there is nothing genuinely captivating about the ring itself. Nonetheless, I must pretend to be interested, or I will be considered inconsiderate. They adore designer brands despite acknowledging that the prices are often marked up hundreds of times their actual worth. They will send pictures of bags or shoes they admire, which resemble any generic item save for the brand name, thus I must feign interest yet again. If the bags had unique features or innovative designs, that would be acceptable, but they do not. Moreover, in some cases, the quality is subpar. The construction can be notably poor. I would be more intrigued if the bag included practical features like a key leash, was waterproof, or had a bright lining for visibility rather than leather coated in plastic. Hence, I find it challenging to contribute positively to the conversation. When they express frustration about their husbands being entirely unhelpful, citing reasons such as their inability to leave their children with them, driving themselves to medical appointments because their husbands do not want to wait, hiring cleaners while recovering from surgery due to their husband's inaction, or voicing that their husbands lack knowledge about their children's medical history, grades, or teachers, the question arises, what am I supposed to say? What I genuinely want to convey is that their husbands are inadequate and they function as single mothers, thus suggesting that they should leave. How can someone who loves you tolerate seeing you worn out and exhausted? Obviously, I do not voice this opinion. If I merely respond with, "Wow, that is unfortunate," they often retract their statements, emphasizing that their husbands occasionally wash dishes and that they are good fathers. Alternatively, they may shift the conversation. So what exactly should I say? I also do not indulge in drinking or smoking while they all do. They have never pressured me or even suggested I participate, which I genuinely appreciate. However, it can be challenging to socialize in a group when I am the only sober person. They do not comprehend this dynamic. They insist that I should join them anyway, as they are merely having a good time and that drinking is not a prerequisite for enjoyment, which is true. However, they do not understand what it is like to be the sole sober individual among a group of intoxicated people. At this stage in our lives, this scenario is relatively rare, so it does not pose a significant issue. However, when it does arise, it becomes awkward for me. They recently embarked on a friend's trip that I was unable to attend. I am somewhat relieved that I could not go, as it appears they spent every night inebriated. They often reminisce about it as the best trip ever, emphasizing their bonding, and I believe that had I been there, I would not have found it enjoyable at all. They prefer all-inclusive resorts, whereas I do not. As I mentioned, I do not drink, and that is a significant appeal of these resorts. I also want to explore the actual country I am visiting, not just remain within the confines of the resort. I have no desire to lie on the beach all day and party every night. Additionally, these foreign companies purchase the locals' land and exploit them to cater to their whims. It feels like a modern form of colonization, which I find objectionable. So how am I meant to respond when they want to plan a trip? I still consider these individuals my close friends, despite our differing views on numerous subjects. I do not believe we must share the same beliefs to maintain a friendship. I simply do not know how to engage in these conversations. Story 5. My friend's girlfriend, 31, keeps flirting with me despite being with him. She even said, "Can I fall asleep in your bed?" and texted me daily. After I got her Ubers, she ghosted me. Now I'm left wondering if I'm the bad guy in this tangled situation. What's really going on? I have a friend, a 33-year-old male whom I have known for approximately 1.5 years. He is known for being promiscuous and has had 4 to 5 girlfriends during the time I have known him. He recently started dating a new girlfriend who is 31 years old, and she constantly flirts with me quite openly, even in front of my friend. I am 38 years old. She says things such as, "Can I fall asleep in your bed as long as I can cuddle up with you?" She frequently speaks negatively about her boyfriend, who is my friend, whenever he leaves the room. She contacted me on Facebook and provided me with her phone number the second time we met. She messages me daily and typically sends me a text in the morning to wish me a good morning. She often calls wanting to come over, and I respond that she can do so as long as my friend, her boyfriend, is also present. She can say some hurtful things to my friend and then approaches me closely as if I am her boyfriend. Once, when I was fetching her something from my bathroom, I turned around to find her sitting on the toilet. The situation escalated last Thursday night when she called and texted me, expressing that her boyfriend, my friend, does not care about her, labeling him a douchebag, and saying that he is mean and insensitive. She claimed she was feeling quite low and wanted to come over around 11 p.m. When I asked what had transpired, she never specified, only reiterating that he is a douchebag and telling me that she would update me later. I advised her it might be best not to come over, but shortly afterward she was texting me again, saying she was not well and needed to come over. My car was in the shop, so she asked me to send her an Uber, to which I replied that it might not be a good idea. However, she insisted she would walk the 9-mile route through some unsafe parts of town, so I reluctantly arranged an Uber for her. She never entered the first Uber as she did not realize the driver had arrived, so I ordered another one, but she did not get in that one either. After about 30 minutes, she texted me again, stating that her boyfriend was acting like a complete jerk and that she was not doing well. She mentioned she would collect her belongings and would text me when she was ready for an Uber to my place. However, I did not hear from her until 7:30 the following morning. I texted her earlier, concerned about her well-being since I hadn't received a response, and she replied that she was not okay. I was asleep and could not respond for an hour. I messaged her several times throughout the day as I was worried. She suffers from depression and she typically responds promptly. I noted that she had not been active on Facebook Messenger since the previous night except while she sleeps. I must confess that I have flirted with her a bit. She is undeniably attractive and I find her attention flattering. She calls me daddy, which could be considered sexual harassment if a man used similar terminology. I am not easily offended and she does not say anything threatening. It is clear that she is attracted to me. I chuckle and remind her that she cannot make such comments in front of her boyfriend, and I have expressed to her that it is just not right while sporting a playful grin. This occurs in full view of my friend, her boyfriend. She has previously asked me to buy her small items, such as things from the gas station, and I have sent both her and my friend Ubers to come over to hang out. Apologies for jumping around, but it's now 7 p.m. the next day, and I have not heard from either her or my friend. I am growing increasingly concerned. I noticed that she had been active on Facebook Messenger for the first time all day but still did not reply to my prior messages or the ones I am currently sending. I am now quite frustrated because she failed to simply message me back, especially since I was charged twice for Ubers she did not use when she requested them. I reiterated in my earlier messages that I just want to know she is okay because she could easily inform me if she wanted to talk. Therefore, I sent her a message saying, "You're welcome for those Ubers I arranged at your request," and reminded her that she cannot just neglect to inform me how she is doing. Still, I received no response until 9 p.m. when she finally replied, stating she was fine and that her phone only operates on Wi-Fi. She asked me to contact her boyfriend if I needed to reach her as she was using an old phone due to losing her regular one. Note that she had used this old phone throughout our texting for the last 3 weeks. I informed my friend that his girlfriend was messaging me. I told him I would stop if he preferred, and he assured me it did not bother him. My relationship with his girlfriend has grown quite pleasant, as we share many similarities and relate well to each other's experiences. We are both sober alcoholics, and both of us have experienced the loss of close family members, with each of us having lost an immediate family member in the last 2 years. We frequently discuss the challenges of remaining sober following such losses and help each other cope with our depression through encouraging conversation. She has mentioned several times how glad she is to have met me, stating that I am funny and possess a good heart and that I have shown her kindness and respect, which I have. Although she has texted me that she loves me, it does not carry the weight of romantic love. She says it in response to my kind gestures or when I bought her something. For instance, after I arranged the Uber she requested, she texted, "You are the best, love you." Ultimately, she never took the Ubers, but I was still charged, leading to my irritation. Additionally, one odd thing is that her Facebook account was hacked, resulting in her creating a new one of which I was her only friend. To me, this seems strange and possibly inappropriate, especially given her relationship status. Yesterday, I sent 3 texts expressing my concern, along with a message indicating it would have been courteous of her to respond with at least a thumbs up to confirm she was okay. This is especially true since I incurred charges for 2 Ubers that she did not use and had not heard from her in nearly a day despite knowing she viewed my messages, as indicated by read receipts. I also messaged my friend, asking for an update about when they plan to come over for dinner as we had discussed. I simply cannot understand why they have responded only once, with her indicating that if I needed to contact her, I should reach out to her boyfriend, despite her having never previously had issues contacting me. They were also supposed to come over for dinner today, and I let my friend borrow 100, which he promised to return today. I initiated a group chat to ask when they would visit, only to receive that one text suggesting I contact her boyfriend if I needed anything. I'm left puzzled over their behavior. I suspect he might have instructed her not to message me anymore, despite my assurance to him that I would refrain if he wished. However, he declared he was fine with our communication. Therefore, I do not grasp why they are not responding to my group messages. I do not believe she is one of those women who seeks attention, as we have shared deep conversations that did not involve flirting and we often joke around. Nonetheless, they now refuse to reply. I guess I appear to be the villain in my friend's perspective, assuming he is upset with his girlfriend for how she flirts with me, which may lead her to claim that I made advances toward her, taking the heat off herself. I have never pursued her, but I have smiled and chuckled in response to her sexual comments and have winked at her occasionally while my friend is engaged with her, though he has not witnessed my actions. Therefore, I might be viewed as the antagonist in their eyes. Do you have any thoughts on why they are not responding to me? Additionally, she may have to serve jail time for a couple of months due to a DUI charge, and she mentioned that if that happens, I should come to visit her. This entire situation feels very strange to me, and I am struggling to understand her behavior.